Faster than a speeding bullet.
I ran until my muscles burned and my veins pumped battery acid.
More powerful than a locomotive.
An idea is like a virus. Resilient. Highly contagious.
Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Jared Moon here with the Better Humanology Podcast, doing a Thursday short episode today talking about strength training. Before I do that, I want to let you know this is pretty much your last chance to get in the Barbell Giveaway. We're doing a Barbell Giveaway from Rogue Fitness. We will be sending you a barbell to celebrate your Christmas, and all you have to do to be entered in the giveaway is to leave us a 5-star review and a positive comment in iTunes, and you are entered in. Like I said, this is coming to an end. We will be announcing it on the podcast soon, so make sure you're listening for that, as we will select a winner at random. All right, guys, this Thursday short episode, let's get right to it. Talking about strength training today. And I want to do a strength training series over the next several weeks to kind of help, people maybe in the new year or getting prepped for the new year who may want to take on strength training. It doesn't necessarily matter what program you're going to use. It just matters how you're doing it. And that's kind of what I want to talk about in the 3-part series. And today is the first one. It's... Originally, it was titled A Simple Method I Used to Double My Strength Horsepower, but then I renamed the article to Taking Your Strength from Toyota to Lamborghini. And I just talk about how you lift. So I'm going to read the article, and then I'll interject with any new information I have, because this was written a few years ago, so some things have changed. But let me start with the article, and we will go from there. All right, let me ask you a question. If you had the choice to cruise around in a Lamborghini or Toyota, which would you pick? Okay, forget economical, forget speed limits, forget price. What if all you had to do to get the Lamborghini was focus on how well you drive it and the rest of the stuff didn't matter? What about in strength? What if the program didn't matter, coaches didn't matter, and all you had to do was focus on how you were lifting to be the strongest and most powerful you've ever been? We know lifting heavy things leads to becoming a stronger and faster human being, but what about the how? I'm not talking about form. We know you must have good form when lifting to see the best results and to minimize injury. I'm talking about how you lift. Speed, tempo, rest, explosiveness. Does it matter? And the short answer is yes, it matters. And honestly, before you get wrapped up in trying to change your program, you should focus on how you lift and not what program you're doing. I see a lot of people jumping from program to program thinking that's the issue, but it's probably just how you're actually executing the lifts. So I'm going to share my experience in this article, and it's pretty much how I started focusing on how I was lifting. Like I said, not the form, more the how, the tempo, the explosiveness. And I started deadlifting with twice the horsepower. So I took an extreme focus on how I lift. I want to be fast with good form because speed makes you powerful and power makes you strong. And I'm going to talk all about that in a second series in another Thursday short episode. So a little backstory. In 2012, when One Man One Barbell was still in testing phases, I achieved a long-time goal of deadlifting 500 pounds. What I didn't tell you is how hard that lift was. I mean, of course, it was max effort, so it's going to be hard, but it was really tough. I was dizzy afterward, seeing stars, and didn't want to deadlift heavy again for a while. It kind of wrecked my CNS a little bit. And that could have also been due to the fact that my first son was born right around that PR, and I wasn't sleeping much, but hey, no excuses. The good news is the program was working. I was getting stronger. The bad news is I wasn't focusing on how I was lifting. So fast forward to now being when this article was written a few years ago, I set a deadlift PR of 525 pounds. And so the new PR at the time was 525 pounds. And I didn't write this article to celebrate PRs. I just wanted to share what I've learned, because the coolest thing about the PR was not the fact that it was more weight than the previous deadlift. No, the coolest thing about the PR is that it is a heavier PR, but also I lifted more weight in less time. So let me say that one more time. I lifted more weight in less time. Now, if you actually go check out this article, you could type in Taking Your Strength from Toyota to Lamborghini in Google, and you'll definitely find it because it's a very unique title. But I have a video, a side-by-side deadlift speed comparison. And it's me in my garage lifting 500 pounds and then me lifting 525 side by side. And I start the lifts at the exact same time in the video, and you can just see how much faster and easier the lift is at 525 as compared to the 500-pound deadlift. And so if you watch it or you don't really understand this stuff all the way, you probably think, well, so you deadlifted one weight a little faster than the other. Why does it matter? And it matters big time. You have to do a few power calculations to really find out why it matters. But in the 500-pound deadlift video, I generated only half of the horsepower I did in the 525-pound lift. Half. To get extremely nerdy, for the 525-pound deadlift, the power output was 820.01 watts, or 1.11 horsepower, or 604.81 foot-pounds per second. None of that stuff is super exciting, but the 500-pound deadlift power output was 393.33 watts, half a horsepower, and 290.11 foot-pounds a second. But who's counting? So why does it matter? That's like asking why a Lamborghini is better than a Toyota. It's half the horsepower. So when you're faster in lifting, everything is better. The 525-pound deadlift was actually after setting PRs in both my squat and press, only minutes apart. The 500-pound deadlift was 100% fresh. You can also probably tell that the 525-pound deadlift did not look near as bad or as difficult as the 500-pound lift. So if you don't watch this video, what I'm saying here, like the 500-pound looks like I struggled to get that weight up and it was painful and you're like, oh man, that form. But with the 525, it was pretty solid. Just did it and let it go. So when you're faster and more powerful, you're not only stronger, you are safer, more efficient, and more well-equipped to handle fitness in general. I mean, it's the same difference as going 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds versus 0 to 60 in 7.2 seconds. It matters, and you pay big for that difference. So how do we take your strength training from Toyota to Lamborghini? So let's get right into it. The practical application you can actually start today. So how to take your strength to the next level. This is a very simple technique and similar to some of the methodology behind One Man One Barbell. If you're unfamiliar with what that is, you could go to onemanonebarbell.com. It's a very popular strength program. So we're going to use a metronome when you lift. This is the big takeaway here, metronome when you lift. A metronome is any device that produces regular metrical ticks, beats, or clicks, settable in beats per minute. And you're going to wish these things were never invented when you apply them to your fitness, especially the barbell. First, I'll start with why use a metronome. Put simply, a metronome keeps you honest. No excessive resting at the top or bottom of the lift. It will help you control the mean velocity of your lifting. Remember, we want you fast. That's the short of it. A metronome will make you fast, which makes you powerful, which makes you guessed it, strong. Also, if you regularly play with new tempos, you will constantly be adapting and rarely hit plateaus. So now let's talk about how to use a metronome in barbell lifting. You can get really creative with a metronome, and there are hundreds, if not thousands, of ways you could apply a metronome to your lifting. I'm only going to go over one proven method today, but if you decide to start using a metronome in your lifting, you'll quickly realize you can play with different combinations and methods for continuous gains. So how do you lift to a metronome? Now, I can't give you a specific tempo or beats per minute to set for your metronome because this will vary significantly on the individual and the level of experience you have with lifting. But don't worry, it'll only take you 1 or 2 sets to find a good pace for you. I will say if you are a super beginner, I would start metronome lifting with bodyweight movements only before moving to a barbell. But here are the basics. So step 1, pick a weight that's between 40 to 60% of your 1 rep max. It doesn't really matter the lift. Step 2, now lift to the metronome. And you can get a metronome app on your iPhone or your Android. Like, metronomes are really easy to get. So let's not get wrapped around the eccentric or concentric phases. That'll just get confusing. Here's how you think of it. So start with a bar in the resting or starting position. So for the deadlift, that's going to be the ground. For the squat, that is standing with the weight on your back. And for the press, that's standing with the bar in the front rack position. Now, every time you hear tick, you will squat, press, or deadlift the weight and get back to the resting or starting position. That's 1 rep. So every time you hear tick, you do a rep. You want to focus on doing the reps quickly and safely. Pretty easy, right? Well, the difficulty will depend on your speed and tempo of the metronome and what you can handle. I can guarantee you this should not be easy. And remember, this is only part 1 of getting you a lot stronger. Part 2, we go into even more depth. So the third step for sets and reps, you start anywhere from 3 to 5 sets of 5 to 10 reps. Beginners start at the low end and advanced start on the high end. So the catch here is on set 1, you need to do a slower tempo and progress to do a faster tempo each set. So if you're doing 3 sets, you're going to increase your beats per minute every time, every set to make it faster. So keep that in mind when you begin. Set 1 should be pretty slow and controlled, but your last set should be moving pretty quickly to those ticks. And that's where you start, and it's a great place to start. So don't change your program or anything just yet. Just add a few sets of focused lifting like this, or better yet, if you're following a program, then simply apply the metronome to the sets you're already doing. Like I said, you can make this more and more challenging by following tempo training methods where you rest for certain periods in up and down positions while focusing on being explosive in certain parts of the lift and more controlled than others, but that's phase 2, and that's a completely different article. First, see how much damage you can do with the metronome madness, and then I say good luck in your training. So this is really that simple. Like whether you are, one of the garage gym athletes, following one of my programs, you can apply this right now because a lot of people don't have disciplined lifting. I see it as a coach all the time. Maybe they're resting too much in between reps, and I'm saying like it's fractions of a second. But if you're doing a set of 10 and it's taking you like minutes to do, you don't have a very disciplined tempo. And the metronome, training with the metronome, even if it's not fast, I'm not trying to get you to just like go, exercise to this extreme tempo lifting. It's just disciplining how you lift. Even if it's, a comfortable pace, it's going to discipline, the tension on your muscles and the rest times in between sets, even if they're fractions of a second. It's going to make you very disciplined, and it's going to make you faster, especially as you do increase that tempo and you get more into the dynamic effort of lifting. But that is all going to be covered in part 2 of this strength series. So get out there today, try it out, metronome lifting, and see what your results are.
Your best. Losers always whine about their best.